Pardon me. Wow, time in. Okay, for the recording, welcome back. We are ACI Course 1, Class 5 on July 31st, 2023. And let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you, just by way of your thinking of them. They're gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them. A beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Think about how much you would like to be able to help them. How wonderful it would be if we could also help in some deep and ultimate way a way through which they would go on to stop their suffering forever. We are learning that it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And maybe even into an intention. Then turn your mind back to that precious holy guide. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn, what we need to do to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they're so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands. And we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Nirya Tayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their full awakening for the benefit of every other. Okay, so let's listen to our text again. The 3 principal paths. I bow to all the high and holy lamas. As far as I am able, I will explain the essence of all high teachings of the victors, the path that all their holy sons commend, the entry point for the fortunate seeking freedom. Listen with a pure mind. Fortunate ones who have no craving for the pleasures of life and who, to make leisure and fortune meaningful, strive to turn their minds to the path which pleases the victors. There is no way to end without pure renunciation, this striving for pleasant results in the ocean of life. It is because of their hankering life as well that beings are fettered. So seek renunciation first. Leisure and fortune are hard to find. Life is not long. Think it constantly. Stop desire for this life. Think over and over how deeds and their fruits never fail, and the cycle is suffering. Stop desire for the future. When you have meditated thus, and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of cyclic life, and when you begin to think both night and day of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. Renunciation, though, can never bring the total bliss of matchless Buddhahood unless it is bound by the purest wish. And so the wise seek the high wish for enlightenment. They are swept along on 4 fierce river currents, chained up tight in past deeds, hard to undo, stuffed in a steel cage of grasping self, smothered in the pitch black ignorance. In a limitless round they are born, and in their births are tortured by 3 sufferings without a break. Think how your mothers feel. Think of what's happening to them. Try to develop this highest wish. You may master renunciation and the wish, but unless you have the wisdom perceiving reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. Make efforts in ways, then, to perceive interdependence. A person has entered the path that pleases the Buddhas when, for all objects in the cycle or beyond, they see that cause and effect can never fail. And when for them, they lose all solid appearance. You have yet to realize the thought of the able, as long as 2 ideas seem to you disparate. The appearance of things, infallible interdependence, and emptiness beyond taking any position. At some point, they no longer alternate, come together. Just seeing that interdependence never fails brings realization that destroys how you hold to objects. And then your analysis with view is complete. In addition, the appearance prevents the existence extreme, emptiness that of non-existence. And if you see how emptiness shows in cause and effect, you will never be stolen off by extreme views. When you have grasped, as well as I, the essential points of each of the 3 principal paths explained, then go into isolation, my child, make mighty efforts, and quickly win your ultimate wish. Says Lama Tsongkhapa to us. All right, then. So last class, we learned about what makes a proper student. Before that, we had learned what blocks us, right, from being a proper student. And then we got these 3 criteria, of which there are actually 4, for what makes us a good student. So who can tell me one?
High spiritual intelligence.
High spiritual intelligence. What does that mean? They already know everything?
No, they're on the path, striving to learn more and dedicated to learn.
Yeah, good. Thanks. What's another one? Going once, going twice, I'll call on somebody. Calmly right, open-minded. Right. Are we really willing to learn something new? Or are we just trying to confirm what we already know? And what's the third one? Victor, you know.
The student has high spiritual aspiration, so
Right.
and they are willing to make effort to achieve it.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you all. So, like, what do we need to do? We were going to define the difference in the three. Oh, show me the rest of that. Oh, accurate, valid, and correct. Thanks for reminding us. How do I get rid of this? Close. Okay. So these three terms, they generally are referring to perceptions that we have. But as we dig deeper, learn deeper, we'll find that like they pertain to every moment of every experience on every level. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And so when we use the term valid, we're speaking to an experience we as conscious beings are having, in which we are not drunk, high, so sick that we can't process our sensory input properly, or so mentally afflicted we're not really perceiving properly. So as long as we're not in any of those situations, we're having valid perception, meaning given the circumstance, given the information, we really are seeing a pine tree out there, right? It's not a pineapple. Yeah, valid. Valid means correct for a being still stained with ignorance, because that valid experience includes our belief that the thing's identity is in it, from it, and my identity is in me, from me, and somehow I'm experiencing that thing validly. We can have direct valid perception. We can have deductive valid perception. We will learn in course 13. They both make things valid. But valid implies ignorant. So for an ignorant state of mind, valid means accurate, because you're not all messed up. But for wisdom, valid does not mean accurate. Because accurate means you're aware that that tree's true nature is empty, blank, and that the tree I am perceiving is coming out of my karmic seeds, as is the me doing the perceiving, and that there's no tree that exists other than that. And until we are perceiving the tree in that way, we are not actually accurate about the tree, right? So correct falls in there somewhere, right? Correct and accurate according to whom? Ignorant being, it means the same as valid. For wisdom, accurate and correct is different than valid. Got it? However, as we go through these early courses, Geshe Michael was using valid, accurate, correct interchangeably. Okay. So at the time, like, we didn't really know enough to wonder. But now going back, it's like, oh, like he had a plan in mind. Okay. Because he was dancing between this idea of correct for an ignorant mind is one thing, and correct for a wisdom mind is another thing. And right, there's this time frame that we'll be in where we're not in this one and we're not in that one. And right. Okay. All right. So thanks for asking. So we're learning about, I don't know how to start. We've been talking about renunciation. Well, you've been meditating on renunciation. And we've been just growing understanding of the different pieces that will allow us to even think about that correctly, accurate. Now I'm stuck with those words in a useful way. And then we learned about the qualities of a teacher and the qualities of the teachings and the qualities of the student. And with all of that now, we can turn our minds to, like, what is this thing we're supposed to be thinking about renunciating? Right? The verses sound like they say, give up desire for this life and give up desire for future life. And it's like, well, what else is there? Right? Am I really supposed to quit wanting to live? And of course, that's not what it means. So this class 5 is about, what is this thing, samsara, that our renunciation wants to get out of, right? The verses all say, the texts all say, get out of samsara. Is it a place? Like, if it is, can't we just buy a bus ticket out, get on the bus and go, right? I'll give my tickets away. But it's not that, right? So how do we want to get out of something if we aren't so clear what it actually is? Yeah. So let's talk about samsara. In Tibetan, the word is korwa. It means to cycle around, korwa. Korwa kor, around and around and around. The Sanskrit is commonly written samsara, although apparently more technically it's sansara. So you can kind of slur it and make your M really nasal, and then nobody will know the difference, right? Because if we say sansara in a group that doesn't know, they don't know we're talking about samsara. But it's not really some, it's some. So sansara. Korwa. It, the words both mean to circle around. But, what is it really? What is it we're trying to avoid? We kind of need to know. So Pabonka Rinpoche, he says renunciation is the desire to get out of this cycle, to get out of samsara, out of korwa. Which again implies that it's someplace that's here and we're going to try to go there. And it's useful to start thinking of it that way, but hopefully very quickly you'll see, oh, no, right? It's not a place at all. It's a state of my mind. It's a state of my behavior. So we're Gelukpas, that means we get definitions. When your homework asks you for a definition, use the definition that's precisely given, because they have been translated very carefully. And so for definitions, don't put your answer in your own words. Right? When your homework asks you to explain, use your own words if you like. But for definitions, learn them precisely. So let's start with the definition of samsara, of korwa. So I hope you can see that. I can't quite, actually. I'm going to give it to you in Tibetan for the blessing. Sakche nirlin gi pungpoi gyun yang ne yang du lempa nye korwa yin. Sakche nirlin gi pungpoi gyun yang ne yang du lempa nye korwa yin. Yin means it is. Nye korwa means this is what samsara is. Got him? Can I put my board down? Like one person's still working on it. Okay. All right. So I want to go through this word for word, and then I'll give it in English that makes sense. So this is what samsara is, says this verse. Sakche nerlin gi pungpoi. Pungpoi means our heaps, those 5 heaps that make us up: form, feeling, discriminating between things, all the other factors that make us up, and all the different kinds of awareness that we possess. Our 5 heaps. Sakche means impure, stained. Nerlen means taken on, but with the implication of having been forced by karma. So Nerland, the words are just taken on. But keep in mind that it's forced by our karmic results. Karmic results come from karmic deeds done before, right? So we're going to talk about that a whole lot more later. Sakche Nerlenki Pungpoi means this force to take on impure heaps. Gyun Yang Ne Yang Du, Lempa. Yang Ne Yang Du means over and over again. Yang Ne Yang Du, Yang Ne Yang Du, right? Sounds like it. Over and over and over. Gyun means in a stream. So Yang Ne Yang Du, Gyun Yang Ne Yang Du means forced to take on this thing over and over and over again in this ongoing stream, meaning there's never a break, right? A stream just runs continually, except in Arizona. No break. Lampa means take. Ye Korwa, that's what samsara is. So putting it together, samsara is this condition of being forced to take on the impure parts that make up a suffering being over and over again in each life. I'll say it again. Samsara, Korwa, is the condition of being forced to take on the impure parts that make up a suffering being over and over in each life. Now, the being forced, we're not being forced by somebody. Okay? We're being forced by the power of our own past behavior, our own karma. So really, we're forcing ourselves. It doesn't yet clarify that. So, we could read this and think, oh, there's some, uber being that's doing that to me. And it's like, no, right? Okay. It implies then that we could have pure heaps to be forced into over and over again. Or we could not be forced, we could choose. Okay, there are other implications as well, but those are the two to get us started. If I'm forced by my own karma to take on impure heaps, can't I change my karma so that those heaps are pure heaps? And can't I change my karma so that I'm not forced at all? Right? It's helping us slowly build our conception of what our goal is really going to mean. Like, what do we think we're going to become when we reach Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanating? Are we now in that place versus this place? Yeah, we're just building these ideas. So the purpose of our Buddhist practices is not to just be able to be mellow when horrible things happen. that will be a nice side effect of your practice, but it's not the goal. The goal is to stop horrible things from happening at all, to oneself and to everybody. And it is possible. It doesn't seem like it. But as we learn the principles, we'll see that it's not just possible, it's inevitable. But it can take a really long time. But it doesn't have to. Sorry, I'm seeing a great big spider on my window. All right, so we have these other terms, liberation, which means to be reborn with pure parts. And we have this term renunciation that we've been working with, which means this wanting to get free from this samsaric condition of being forced by karma to take on the impure heaps over and over again. So it's really difficult to get strong renunciation until we really understand that every part of our korwa, our cycle of living, is suffering. And it's like when we're struggling and looking for some, path full of answers because of our suffering, and we meet a teaching that says, look, everything's suffering, right? Some people might go, I don't want a spiritual path that tells me everything's suffering, right? I want a spiritual path that's gonna, right, hug me and hold me and take care of me. But we need a spiritual path that tells it like it is. You're right. Life is suffering. The obvious stuff is suffering. Even the good stuff is suffering, and the causes for more because they come to an end and they leave us wanting for more. And we think we know what to do to get more. And the things we try, when they work, they deceive us. Because we think that's how I got that happiness, and then it ends and we end up disappointed. And we can see, right? We get a glimpse of this cycle. It's just like everything I do, right, is the wrong thing to do to get to where I really believe I want to go. All born of, forced by past karmic deeds. Okay, ignorance is underneath it all. How is desire different than attachment to the end goal? Yeah, we'll get there, I think. Okay. So the fact that every moment is in samsara is a suffering, which is a result of past suffering that we caused, and how we respond to it, which by experiencing it, we've already responded, right, in a very subtle way. And then we react, and new seeds are planted. And that's the stream that we're talking about, is our experience, response, experience, response, experience, response. We could say that as seeds ripening, seeds planting, seeds ripening, seeds planting, right? It's not so much sequential as simultaneous. So as a samsaric being, every ripening is a result of having caused past suffering. It is then an experience of suffering, and our natural response to it plants new seeds for new suffering, even the suffering of good things that wear out, and the suffering of the pervasive suffering that the seeds for this life are wearing out the instant it starts. So what keeps us in samsara? What keeps us perpetuating that cycle? Le Nyung Jing. Did I write that down? I did not. Oh, yes, I did. My other screen. Le Nyun Ki Ching. This is the phrase for what keeps us in samsara. So this word le is the Tibetan word for karma. Karma is the Sanskrit word. Now, confusingly, Tibetan has a word, karma, and it means star, like the star in the sky, the star on the top of your Christmas tree, right? So it's a little bit confusing. Le Nyun Ki Ching. Nyun is short for Nyomong. Which means, we use the term mental affliction. Klesha is the Sanskrit. And what this means is any state of mind that disturbs our peace of mind. So it kind of implies that if we could have a moment free of mental afflictions, our mind would be very peaceful. And that what blocks that state of mind is these constant stream of nyomongs, mental afflictions. We might call these emotions, right, in our ordinary realm. These nyomongs are things like irritation, discontent, all the way to, hatred and inspired to do violence, and all the way the other way, right, to incredible compassion and love. It's disturbed state of mind, gross and subtle. So what keeps us chained to samsara is these bad thoughts and the karma they make us do, right? What we do in response to those mental afflictions is what chains us to the cycle. We're recognizing that karma is the cycle, right? And so what does karma mean? Like, what's the definition of karma, Jatson Kappa? Le. The Abhidharma Kosha definition of karma is movement of the mind and what it motivates. So this term mind is kind of a slippery one, I find. I automatically think mind and intellect, and that's too limiting. Intellect means those mental words going on in there, thinking about something to come to a solution, intellect. But we have lots of other mental awarenesses that are more subtle than those mental words, talking to us inside there. So when we're talking about movement of the mind, we're meaning every shift of awareness, and if we could get subtle enough, we could actually count 65 of them per instant. That's a lot. Right? Movement of the mind on a more gross level. You're just sitting on your porch looking at the mountains. And, if we're aware, it's like we aware of the sky. Oh, maybe there's rain coming. Oh, there's the cacti. They haven't had water in a long time. Oh, right? The mind's just moving constantly. That's driven by karma. That is karma happening. We learn karma as the law of cause and effect. But this is quite a different definition. Movement of the mind and what it motivates. What it motivates means my mind moves, and then I think, say, do something. Right? That's where the intellect comes in. Mind moves, bing, bing, bing. Think, say, do. Okay. No, we don't always do from what we think, we don't always say. But we've got these three aspects of our different awarenesses. What we're learning in our Buddhist training is to grow this awareness of this process so that we can cultivate the ability to make wiser choices when the mind moves and we think, say, do. Somewhere in there, we can buy ourselves enough time, right, to choose different say and do's, and eventually choose different thinking about it as well, right? Maybe it starts there. Okay, so we'll learn more and more about this thing, movement of the mind and what it motivates, and how powerful a tool that understanding is. Okay. So the verses say, they think of your mothers, they're chained up tight in past deeds, hard to undo. Not just our mothers, we are too. And chained up tight means we're chained in this cycle of aware of something, believe it comes from it, feels good, doesn't feel good, feels good, I like, I want more, doesn't feel good, I don't like, I blame, I do something to get rid of it. Making wrong choices about what to do to keep it and to get rid of it. So the whole thing is not about, recognize this process and just don't do anything, right? We're not out to make ourselves into robots. We're trying to learn how to choose a wise response so that our core, our cycle of samsara transforms from samsaric to Buddha paradise for everyone. Okay. Our mental afflictions, colored with our misunderstanding, makes us respond to our circumstances in ways that are the causes for future circumstances in which our minds make the same mistake. It seems like it's impossible to break. But look, we'll learn why that's not true as we investigate. We call them the laws of karma, but they're the explanations for how this system actually functions. As we react to our experiences with impure thoughts, we make the causes for future circumstances from which we will react with impure thoughts because we've misunderstood where the circumstances come from. Ignorance, the misunderstanding of the process, underlines the whole mess. And when we can get to that underlying mistake, we can begin to correct it. Our ignorance is a big mistake. So renunciation is finally recognizing how trapped we are in this cycle and stopping resisting the fact that it is all suffering. And it just sounds so weird. It's like, just admit every moment is suffering. I don't want to do that. There has to be some nice moments. Yes, they are, but they're going to end. Expect it. Right? Are we really to really dig in and admit, everything about me is broken? Who wants to admit that? Renunciation. All 5 of our heaps and every piece of the heap, right, is impure, made by mistaken behaviors to get what I want, to avoid what I didn't want. And I'm sick of it, right? That's renunciation. I'm sick of this. And I'm sick of not being able to do anything about it, it seems like. When we think both night and day of achieving freedom, we have found renunciation. Getting a glimpse that it's not necessary, that we can in fact change it, is what triggers the actual renunciation. Otherwise, these teachings would just trigger depression. I give up, hopelessness. Yeah. Recognizing that it's all a big mistake. That's when renunciation kicks in. I'm going to stop this. And then hopefully we also have the seeds to then think, well, gosh, everybody's in the same boat. Now that I understand this about me, right, it's true of everybody in my world, not just human. And when we turn our renunciation onto others, that's called bodhicitta. Not meaning, oh, you guys should have renunciation, right? Not that kind of turn it on to them. But recognizing, maybe they've never even heard the pen thing. Maybe they never even heard of karma. Yeah, maybe they don't have the capacity to learn something like that and change their behavior like animal realm. Yeah, Shanti, I agree. So our renunciation turned on to others is not our judgment of them or our imposing our ideas on them. It's our recognizing that, oh, I've made this broken world full of beings that are just as broken. And I really, really want to help them. If I can help me, I can help them. And as we learn how this process of imprints and outprints work, I lost my train of thought. We'll recognize that it's by trying to help others that we transform, and that we can't actually help others in that deep ultimate way until we have fully transformed ourselves. And once we have, part of that transformation, born of the compassion and wisdom, is the ability to know exactly, directly, what every being needs to give up and take up for them to create the merit, the karma, the good karma, to stop their own suffering. Every being is responsible for stopping their own suffering. We cannot reach in and take karma from someone else. We can teach. So transforming ourselves is to make all heaps pure. And to do so, we do so through our behavior towards others. And in the process, right, our own heaps get transformed. And then we're able to help those others that we were helping, who actually helped us, get there, make their transformation as well. Maybe as we get closer in our transformation, we see them more purely. And maybe pretty soon, those ones that we thought were so suffering, oh my gosh, they're way ahead of me on this path, right? It can happen. So everybody's in the same boat. And it's great to give food and clothing and kindness, worldly things, but it's not enough to help them end their suffering forever. It's not that we don't do worldly things to help, to try to help. It's transforming those worldly activities into causes for Buddhahood for all of us. So the deeds are not going to be so different. It's the state of mind with which we do our deeds that will be different. Okay? And that's what we're learning through the process of the 18 ACI courses and 6 practice modules. So renunciation is, I want to get free of this mess. Bodhicitta is, I want everybody to get free of this mess. Right? Not leaving a single one out. So how do we do it? Where do we start? by taking a break and coming back refreshed. Really, take a break. Are we back? Translators all there. All right then. How do we begin to stop the cycle? The verse says, stop desire for this life, and then stop desire for future life. We're coming to understand what it means is stop desire for this suffering life, not just life. Stop desire for suffering future life. Why they didn't say that, I don't know. So we've reached these two next lam rims, two next things to gain realizations about that the teacher will teach us, right? Once we devote ourselves to our path. And these two are contemplations that we work with to inspire and motivate us in our willingness to change our behavior. And so they are called, number one, the first one that we received, not the first lamrim, but the first one in this category of starting to stop the cycle, is Delnjor Nyeka. When we've got that one, they take us to Chiwa Mitakpa. And these two combined takes our renunciation to this new level. So Del Jor Neka. Del means leisure. Jor means fortune. Leisures and fortunes are hard to find. Life is not long. Think it constantly. That's these two. So we will learn in greater detail what is meant by these leisures and fortunes. There are 8 leisures and 10 fortunes that we as suffering human beings actually have that we don't recognize. We don't recognize how valuable they are, meaning we kind of take them for granted. We have lives of leisure and fortune in the sense that whatever your circumstances, they are allowing you to be here in a class like this. Not just your time and your interest, but your capacity, your mental capacity, your technical capacity, your inspiration. You're not struggling for survival right now, thank goodness for all of us, right? And we kind of take it for granted. But as we learn more and more, we realize how special we are, how special we have it. And it grows our sense of, oh my gosh, right? I want to use it. I want to use it really powerfully. which will lead us to, teach me how to do that. So our leisures and fortunes, we are human. We are intelligent. We have our faculties intact. We've met the Dharma. We aren't starving, struggling to survive. And that's really rare, actually. How many humans are there that have never met the Dharma, that have never heard the pen thing? How many have heard it and it didn't have any impact? Then compare that, right? The few that have met the Dharma, were impacted, are on their path, to all those that are not, apparently, and then include all the animal realm. How special are you? Really special, right? Your past goodness is incredible. And I don't know about you, I don't wake up every morning going, wow, my past goodness, right? It's just like, here's life. And it's a wrong state of mind. It's a missing state of mind. It's a missing out state of mind. Okay. How do we know for sure that these incredible circumstances are going to continue? I know many people who did what they needed to do to get through those 12, 15 years of training, and now they're nowhere to be seen within our, Dharma sphere. I don't know where they are, what they're doing. But they're not still attending Lamrims. They're not, right? We just don't know. And then of our group that went through the Diamond Mountain training, there's already been 10 or 12 of them that have died out of 130 something that graduated. We could lose the ability to practice. One good accident, right? We could just lose our interest. Something could happen in the Sangha that pushes the envelope of our understanding and we have to step away. It happens. The idea is to motivate ourselves to be willing to take responsibility for our own behavior choices, because that's where all of it really comes from. Even the seeing others lose the ability comes from me. So when we are still holding to this human life as and its pleasant experiences as the source of my happiness, I will continue to try to get that happiness in the same old human ways that don't work. They seem to work, which makes it worse. Because then I don't question, I don't make different choices. Every time the key turning the car starts the car perpetuates my belief, right? That keys start cars. And I miss the opportunity to rejoice and be grateful and find some way to use my car for someone else's benefit, which is just a state of mind. Okay. When we can look at the things that we desire in worldly life and recognize that those desirable objects will only bring us more suffering, we are getting a clue into our renunciation. The natural reaction is, well, then I don't want them. The wisdom reaction is, how do I make them not be like that? How do I make everything pleasurable all the time for everyone? Do we even believe that's possible? So from our recognizing our leisures and fortunes and what a rare opportunity that is, we're starting to motivate ourselves to turn our energies to learning more, training more, right? To be able to perpetuate having the leisures and fortunes, to be on our spiritual path. When we understand the process really well, it really won't be a struggle. Our renunciation will not be a struggle. We won't be changing our behavior because Lord Buddha said so, or the teacher said so. It'll be our own reprioritization of our own desires. It will recognize the things that even make us happy in a worldly way will be different than they were before. So then, as we're getting right that level of renunciation, the teacher will say, okay, now think about Chiwami Takpa. Chiwami Takpa means, Chiwa is the word for death, and mi Takpa we're using here as impermanence. Chiwami Takpa means think about your own impermanence. These leisure and fortunes, they could end at any moment by us getting sick or hurt or losing interest. But they can also end at any moment by us being dead. Right? Running out of the karma for this life. Chiwami Takpa means to gain a clear certainty and awareness of the inevitability of this body's death, the end of this lifetime, and the uncertainty of the time of that death. And again, the process is not to scare us. The process is to motivate us. As long as we're holding our leisures and fortunes to be like our privilege, our like God-given right, and we're expecting them to just continue on, we will be terrifically disappointed when it comes to an end. And we recognize, I don't know for sure I'm going to get another one like this. We don't want to wait until we're at that point where life itself is showing us, you're out of time, honey. We don't even want to wait until we get to the place where those around us are revealing to us that we are very close to being out of time. Right? I live in a over 55 community, of which when we moved in, over half the community was in their 80s. We've been here almost 10 years. Half of them are gone. Right? The others are in their 90s. Right? We'll be moving away or dying. Like, it's a pretty common thing. Oh, you know, so-and-so died yesterday. Right? It's like really close in my face. Whereas in my younger years, it was rare for me to know of someone who died, and I was in medicine, right? My patients didn't even die. So we don't want to wait until our own immortality is in our face, because then it's too late and we're too preoccupied to focus on the changes that we need to make about ourselves. Right now, of course, never too late to make some progress. But here we are, younger and motivated and have these extraordinary circumstances. And the Jiwa Mitakpa teachings help us go through the exercises where it becomes clear that every day could very well be my last one. I don't know. And when I understand about, mental seeds planting and mental seeds ripening, our own decision will be, I want to make the best use of my day today, because I'm not sure I have a tomorrow. How can I use my time, my motivation, my love in a way that will prepare me should between now and tomorrow I wake up dead? Right? Can I plant my seeds today that will help me into a rebirth tomorrow that keeps me on the path, or even use it to transform, which is possible? Yeah. Most of us, Geshe calls it a stillborn death awareness. We all know, am I going to die? Yes. When? I don't know. But we've got it pushed so far to the back that we're not prioritizing our behaviors in a day-to-day, moment-by-moment way, motivated by the concern, I don't know if I'll have tomorrow. Yeah. So again, there's a whole course that we will do on death awareness practice. It comes up in a couple of courses from now. It's like the next practice module that we'll do is death awareness practice. It's my favorite thing to teach. Between our leisures and fortunes and our death awareness practice, we are growing this renunciation of wanting more suffering this life and our renunciation of wanting more suffering any future life, the key word being the suffering part. We do want a future life with leisures and fortune. We do want this life with continued leisures and fortunes. The only way we can create that is by creating the karmic seeds for it. And those seeds need to ripen. And we'll learn we have seeds that will ripen differently. What are we going to do about those? We'll learn. So our motivation from these two levels, leisure and fortune, recognizing my own impermanence, is, wow, I see this attachment to my old behaviors is born of a misunderstanding. And I want to train in new behaviors that will help me deepen my realizations, through which I can help everyone gain their own realizations. And that doesn't mean being in a different place. It doesn't mean necessarily changing jobs or changing families. What it means is changing our own attitude and behavior and belief system. We choose our own priorities, and we have certain criteria that we use, and we're learning new criteria to apply to our choices of behavior. But it's always your choice. As we understand better and better, our choices will be for more and more kindness, because we understand, right, where pleasantness comes from. So my guess is we are all already very kind people. So we really don't need to learn so many new behaviors, as we want to take those common kindnesses and crank up our understanding of why we're doing them, what seeds we're planting as we do them. All right. So as we change our priorities, we are reducing our attachments to our old way of thinking where happiness comes from. And we'll bump up against these patterns of reactions that we have that can be very helpful if we can recognize them, because then we can, right, we have this little window of opportunity of choosing a different response. There's a set of guidelines called Jikten Chuge. Jikten is the word for our world, meaning our ignorant human life world. Chuge means the 8 thoughts. Chu is thoughts here, ge means 8. So this is called the 8 worldly thoughts. It's a list of 4 pairs of 2 things, pairs of opposites that are described as very common ways in which we react via our misunderstanding to our experiences. These 8 are nye, dang, manye. So dang means and. So nye and manye. Nye means getting something, like getting what we want. And manye would mean not getting what we want. So let me give you the 8 first. Nye dang manye. De dang mi de. Nyen dang mi nyen. Do and may. Got him? Okay. So the 8 worldly thoughts go like this. Being happy when I get what I want. Being unhappy when I don't get what I want. Or I get what I don't want. Right? So although these are pairs of opposites, there's like a third one thrown in there. So if you think, the big things, I want a new car. I finally get it. Yay, I'm happy to get the new car. And all the while I haven't gotten the new car, I'm unhappy because I haven't gotten it yet. And then I get it and it makes me happy for how long? Until it needs its first repair, or I scratch it, or how it goes. But, I want a new car rarely, but are happy when I get what I want, unhappy when I don't is going on momentarily, isn't it? And our mind is swinging, our state of mind is swinging back and forth between, yeah, I'm happy, no, I'm not, yes, I am, no, I'm not, yes, I am, no, I'm not. Okay? And it doesn't have to be like that, is the point. Second one, being happy when we feel good and being unhappy when we don't feel good. And it's like, what, are you kidding? Is Buddha saying I'm supposed to be happy when I've got a migraine? There is no way. But, right, the underlying theme is blaming the feeling good for the happiness. Is it pleasurable to feel good? Yes. Is it unpleasurable to not feel good? Yes. But is the state of mind of happiness necessarily tied to pleasure? We think so. Does it have to be? No. That's like the big aha, right? My state of mind does not have to be tied to what's going on right now. It can be completely separate. Whoa, that'd be cool. So I'm happy because I get something. I'm unhappy when I don't. I'm happy when I feel good. Because I feel good, I'm unhappy when I don't. Nian dong mi nian means I'm happy when I'm well known. I'm unhappy when I'm not well known or badly known. So well known doesn't just mean famous, because who really cares about that? But it means I'm happy when I'm aware that I have a good reputation amongst my people. And I'm unhappy when I hear, in some way my reputation's not good. Right? So well-known means in that context. Okay. 7 and 8 is te and me, which te means I'm happy when someone says something nice to me, and I'm unhappy me when they say something nasty, bad about me. Right, so this one would be like praise versus blame or criticism. Right? Our reaction when someone praises us is like, yeah, that's nice. And our reaction when someone blames or criticizes, it's like, hey, what, me? Yeah. And they are a pleasant and unpleasant situation, but our worldly thought about them is this automatic, that's the source of my happiness, that's the source of my unhappiness, when that is not in fact true. So these 8 worldly thoughts, when we can recognize how they're going on moment by moment, we see the connection between our thinking, that thing makes me happy, that person makes me happy, I want more of that, more of them. And what I do to get more of them in, my life is this. And most of it seems harmless enough. I go to the grocery store, I pay money, right? I buy another jar of raspberry jam and get what I want. But we're wanting to use these more subtle reactions that we're having to begin to recognize how swiftly are our responses, so that we can grow this awareness level to allow us to say, this is how old me wants to act, but new me wants to plant a different seed. Right? So we're not getting quite yet to what the new seed is. It's coming. We all know, of course, but we're wanting to grow our awareness of our attachments to samsara. And these 8 worldly thoughts are a big clue. So I think your meditation is about working with these 8 worldly thoughts. So finally, you get off renunciation and explore these 8 worldly thoughts. In your conclusion about them, recognize that the reason we have these 8 worldly thoughts is because we had them in our minds as we did our deeds in the past towards others. And so they're trapped in our karmic seeds that are ripening as our current experiences. And they have no reality other than that, which means our behavior towards them will change them in our future. So we want to be sure to recognize not just, oh yeah, I have these 8 worldly thoughts, but, and it's not that we want to stop the 8 worldly thoughts. It's that we want to be aware of them arising and then use them to choose a different response than before, than the habitual one. It's not really possible to live a life without these, right, different situations coming up. We get what we want, we don't, right? People think highly, then they don't. We get blamed, we get criticized, we get praised. It's happening constantly. We feel good, we don't feel good. Our response to all of that really could be great. Great. I'll use it all. And it seems impossible. But imagine being a being who, no matter what comes at them, is just like, okay, I know what to do with that. I know what to do with that. Right? We could call it nirvana. We'll get to that later. Right? Life isn't perfect. It's our response to life. Right? Is enjoyable. Even when bad stuff's happening. Okay. Again, that's all I have for this class, a few minutes early. If there are questions that didn't get answered, I'm happy to take them now. Otherwise, we'll do our dedication and you get a few extra moments on me. Questions? Going once, going twice. Thanks, Nanda.
I have.
Okay, Kunli.
3 sufferings consist of. Can do a little bit of explanation. 3 sufferings.
The 3 sufferings. Okay, so the 3 sufferings. Number 1 is obvious suffering, like having a headache, like the car accident, like job loss, like somebody yelling, right? Obvious. The suffering of change means good things that wear out. Right? We have a pleasant dinner and then it ends. We don't think of that as a suffering, but when it ends, the automatic sense is we want more. Right? My husband, David, he says, ice cream, and then it's gone. Right? It leaves us wanting for more. That's the suffering of change. Pervasive suffering has many different levels. On one level, pervasive suffering is the fact that this life is inexorably moving towards its end. The karmic seeds that brought us this life are being used up by living, no matter what we do. And within that pervasive suffering is illness, aging, death, and then forced into another rebirth. that whole process is going on underneath, and we're really not aware of it until the time comes. So pervasive is like this underlying theme.
You're saying that many levels, this is one of the levels. Oh,
Right, it's
this
like
is-
the beginning level of pervasive suffering. As you dig deeper into pervasive suffering, we'll find that our very ignorance is at the bottom of it. Misunderstanding where things really come from is a underlying suffering that drives everything.
So this means that it has many categories for this one.
Yes,
Oh,
for pervasive, right?
all right, okay.
Good, thanks. Yes, Tracy.
Okay, my question's in reference to the desire. When it comes to, I never will have the proper perception of the correct worldview until I actually get to the end goal. In the meantime, as I'm looking at desire of getting to the end goal, how do I differentiate between desire of not having the correct view, but planting the right seeds of desire to not be too attached to the end goal?
Yeah, that's a really hard one. The attachment means I believe that it's in it from it. The attachment is not, I want that. Right? It's what I have to do to make it happen is where our attachment lies. So we should want the realizations. We can want Buddhahood and not be attached to those realizations or attached to our Buddhahood, because we understand that they will be made by karmic seeds and then perpetuated by karmic seeds. So there's nothing to be attached to, right? Our Buddhahood isn't like, finally, I'm done. It's like, finally, we've started our career and we're perpetuating it then, right? So look at attachment, not to the goal, but to how you get to the goal. And we'll recognize where our attachment is. I think there's something in doing those meditations that will make it happen. Oh, so I don't have to do the meditations. No, we do. Right? To plant the seeds that will grow into the experience that we will then use to help others, etc. Okay, so work on that. What attachment means.
Thank you.
Great question. Kongli, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so one more. Actually, this one, the Mahamudra, and then the diamond way, and then the three principal path. Okay, this diamond way, actually, how do you describe diamond way related to three principal path?
Right, so the diamond way training is learning methods of interacting with our world with a state of mind that's so different than it used to be, that we're planting our seeds in a more powerful way that bring them to ripen in a faster way, but both the kind ones and the selfish ones. And
Okay.
we won't be able to sustain, we won't be able to sustain that if we have not already planted sufficient goodness in our mind by way of our working with renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct worldview.
Oh,
So
okay.
what renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct worldview teach us in terms of our behavior choices grows the goodness within us that will bring about the ability to interact with our world in this profoundly different way. And without the goodness of those three, no amount of effort to do the diamond way will work for us, because it working can only be a result of some extraordinary amount of goodness that we've made. There's nothing about the diamond way practices that work from their own side. They are a ripening of the goodnesses done by our work with the open practices. Technically, we do our open practices well enough. We don't need the diamond way. Meaning, those ways of perceiving our world will just come to us. Yeah. It takes the three principal paths. The goodness made. Look at that. We made Kungli freeze up on that one. Chris.
Is there any sense in Buddhism that, like, when you finally reach Buddhahood, it's like coming home? Or is there the sense that you got to suffer and be on this wheel in order to get to Buddhism, so that this life, even though it's suffering and we should renounce it, it's necessary?
Yes. There's a big.
Or is it just we're stuck in a trap and it's like, how did we get here? And it's our fault and we got to get out.
Right. Right. It's one of the levels, right, that our practice goodness will bring us to, is a shift from that, oh, I'm trapped, I've got to get out, to this, wow, this is all one great, big, amazing opportunity. And that's transformation happening. Yeah. It does happen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help at the beginning of class? We learned a lot that we will use sooner or later to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be happy with yourself. Think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guides. See how happy they are with you. Grow your gratitude to them. Your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you and inspire you. Then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. Feel them there, that love, that compassion, that wisdom, shining and glowing within you. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all filled with happiness, filled with love. And may it be so. Okay, thank you, everyone. Please do your homeworks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
Teacher Sarahni.
Lama.
Thank you.
On
Yeah,
Thursday.
all the
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, welcome.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, thank you, translators.
Thank you, teacher.
谢谢老师。Thank you, teacher. 感谢老师。